Hi, everybody. Welcome. And thanks for being here on a Wednesday right after a longer weekend. So we have a few things that we're going to talk about today. Dr. Lamia is here to speak to you. Dr. Kaltenecker will be speaking about Title I funding. And then we are going to talk to you about two things that will be focused on school-wide this year. I'd mentioned them briefly at Back to School Night, and we're going to explore them a little further today.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I think it's nice at the beginning of the year, and I've done this in all of the buildings, if I just give a sense of what's happening with your principal. So if anyone knows what your principal does, she doesn't know I'm saying anything about her. So right now she's like, where is this? If anyone knows anything about what a principal in this district does, it's me. Because there are the parts of being a principal that you see, which is that Kim is here every day. Kim knows the names of every single child in this building. You will see her barely in her office and always outside of her office. And from a parent's perspective, that's very comforting, just to know that she knows your children and cares about your children. And, part of the reason why Kim's in this position is because she's one of our greatest child advocates. But what you don't know is all of that behind the scenes work that Kim does to prepare for each school year. So I thought it would be nice if I shared that with you. In the spring of every year, our administrators reflect about the goals that they had set for themselves for that year and how successful they were at achieving them. They are their harshest critics in whether or not they thought that they had met what their own expectations were. And then over the summer, the administrators spend a couple of days developing their annual goals. And you will see, these annual goals, you will see are multiple pages long. And basically it starts with what the principal thinks the main goal or main mission of the district is, and how the principal is planning to show what they believe in that purpose and what process that they're going to take to realize those goals that they set for the year. So I wanted to give you a sense of what Kim's goals were over the summer that you can see. They are a nice combination of curriculum and pedagogy. How are we looking at new standards? How are teachers teaching these new classes? How can she be an instructional leader to them? And then also the student social emotional learning component, which is how do we make sure that our kids are ready to learn. So Kim's goals are, they vary, where first she is starting with her super team, which is a member of each of the teams in the building. They are starting to look at team goals. Regarding student wellness, each team is setting their own goal. So for instance, I think it's an 8th grade team has a Family Wednesday or something like that, which is like no homework on Wednesday night. And just this one goal to say, can we have a night that we say this is a night that is preserved for family? That's one team. Now, you might have somebody who says, well, the other team doesn't do that. No, they don't. But they have another goal that they might be doing, that they are doing, that is going to benefit students and their social emotional learning. What is the genesis of all of that? If you have teams create goals that they feel are so important just to them individually, and they're successful at that goal, it breeds what Tim refers to as an efficacy. It's really like a collaborative efficacy. So all of the faculty and staff will look at others who are successful in these goals, and they'll believe in those teachers, and they'll believe in what those teachers are doing, and perhaps do that themselves. We are not a district that has ever been a top-down district. This is what you're going to do and how. Why? You can't sustain that. You can demand something and walk out of a room and then that thing doesn't happen anymore. And that's not what we're about. We're about teachers actually taking ownership for that. So Kim's done a lot with that. Regarding curriculum and pedagogy, some of her goals are, how are we changing instruction in the classroom? And it could be by letting teachers think about projects that they want to work on that support student growth and student work more than just teachers teaching. Teachers should be facilitating learning. Sometimes they instruct, sometimes they facilitate. So some of the goals that Kim is working on with teachers expresses that. We had 2 teachers in this building who were published in leading educational periodicals in the past year. One of them did something called Project Me. She was inspired by High Tech High University School District, and it feels like university. And what she wanted to do is give kids choice when they were doing their final assessments and projects. It was so successful, she wrote about it and she was published in the English Journal. That's actually coming out just September. And then we had another teacher who tried to look at homework, and she tried to say, well, how much of this math homework that I'm giving my kids every day is actually beneficial to their learning, and how much of it is just exercising the same strength that that child already possesses? She did that study and shared the results with her educators. This comes from Kim, having that design set up where teachers are talking about what they're learning and what they're doing in their classrooms with kids and sharing that pedagogy. So you can't find a teacher at Crittenden right now who doesn't know about those two teachers and the projects they're doing. And actually the Project Me has become, I think all 8th grade students are, right? 8th grade? School-wide are now doing it. And that is how things happen at Crittenden. It's not that we are latching on to the next great thing. It's that we're very slow and methodical in the process. So I just thought it would be nice for you to see that Kim does this. She also sets some targets every year. Every administrator will set 2 targets in addition to these big goals. And those are like 2 of their pet projects and things that they're going to be working on. I just thought behind the scenes, you'll see Kim outside waving to you, you'll see her talking to kids, but to know that that level of intent happens in our academic world here is also important. So just a little share.
Thanks, Dr. Lamia.
You're welcome. And I wish everybody a good year, and you are in the most capable hands.
Thank
Great.
you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Principal's Coffee. And I have 2 parts to my presentation. The first part I'm required, and thus the sign-in sheet, which I can take here. And this is part of a required presentation because we receive federal funds based on low-income students. And I'll go over the requirements of that. And since I have your attention, I'll also talk about some of the district-wide initiatives that we have going on, just to give you an update. I apologize for those of you who are at the Wampus Principal's Coffee, but I am required to do this at every building. Well, let me start with what Title I is. There's federal funds called Title I that we apply for as a district, and it's proportional. The amount of money you get is proportional to the low-income students in your district. So you can imagine we don't receive a lot of money, but we do get some. And for me, getting every dime I can get to spend on professional learning, professional development, and to support our kids is worth it. Title funds can be used to support the academic progress of students, and it can be used to train teachers or for materials and supplies that all support student learning. And issues that I've used Title I funding in the past have been basically most of the money is used for academic intervention services, which is to support students who are falling below standards on state tests. Also for training of teachers, to train around curricular initiatives that will support the learning of all students in the classroom. Also some supplies and materials are used as well in this funding. And another requirement for my presentation is how parents can be involved. The fact that you're here is one way to get involved, is by attending Principal's Coffees, by being part of our site-based team, by volunteering for the PTSA or for our Bobcat TV or the Media Center, where you can go around into all the schools and videotape what's happening in the schools with all these wonderful events. It really gives you an eye into our schools and classrooms and the work with our kids. We also have other ways you can be involved in the schools, so reach out, be here, and be involved, and we appreciate that. And with that, I want to move on to just give you an overview of some of the initiatives so you get a sense and flavor of the schools, what we've been doing in the elementaries through middle and then into the high school and where that goes. So all of our initiatives always focus around our mission statement, and it's something as an administrative team, as Dr. Lamia mentioned, when we meet as administrators in the summer at our administrative retreat, we look at our mission statement and make sure all the goals that we write are related to how we are producing productive and responsible citizens of the 21st century. We are also grappling with this question. How do we maintain social and emotional wellness while also providing students with a rigorous academic environment? We don't believe that's mutually exclusive. We believe you can do both, and we work hard to figure that out. And a lot of our goals are around that area. This is sort of a broad view of our district initiatives, not meant as isolated pieces, but instead meant to all work together and in coordination with each other so that we can have rigorous content, but also help the social emotional development of our students. is Dr. Lamia talked about the Project Me, where a teacher worked on a way for students to read a complex text and make meaning to their own lives and to see how other students interpret that. That hits on a lot of these areas. It hits on authentic learning experience, where students had to create something about themselves and create something that was unique that described themselves, while also using critical thinking, where they're making some analysis between the text and their own lives and the lives of their friends and the meaning of what that all means in coordination to each other. There's communication and collaboration in there as well. Students were empowered because they can make choices about how they presented their work. So there's a lot of these go hand in hand within our lessons. These aren't meant to be isolated initiatives, but instead work together to produce rigorous content in a social emotional development way. A few examples of some curricular initiatives. We've been working for about 7 years now on a STEAM curriculum, and we now have a comprehensive STEAM curriculum from kindergarten up through our high school, with recently at the high school developing some unique STEAM courses in robotics for our students. And just for time, I won't show this video, but there is a short video of a student where our STEAM curriculum all comes together. This was in an astronomy class where a student was learning astronomy, but then also had to create a robot to take soil samples, pretending to mimic a Mars rover bot, and then take those chemicals and analyze them, the soil compounds, to see what the soil is made up of. So it was an interdisciplinary project that showed elements of STEAM as well as the content learning in astronomy and other areas as well. After spending about 7 years on STEAM, we've been bringing in our Global Scholars work. So this was an initiative around sort of thinking about, we spent a lot of time on the technology side of things. What are we doing on the humanities, and how do these things overlap? We started to look at global competence and how we can teach students about the world around them and how to see study issues deeply from multiple perspectives. And we enlisted our high school chairs in English, social studies, and world language, and we came up with a 3-year sequence where students study world events and look at current events from multiple perspectives, as well as relating it to history and the historical relevance. It's called the Global Scholars Program. You can see that our enrollment has gone up over the years, the 3 years. We're just in year 3 now. So it's a 3-year sequence. We're just writing the curriculum and implementing year 3 now. So the enrollment has grown, showing us an interest in it, and the feedback from the students in the course has been phenomenal. They like studying these topics, and it's in an environment that's very different than learning subjects in isolated ways, but instead interdisciplinary ways. A few other curricular initiatives I will end on, which include finalizing our implementation of our math curriculum, K-5. So we're in year 3 of that rollout. We continue professional development in that area, and we're continuing to look at, revise, and review our our secondary math program in grades 6 through 12. We're reviewing our literacy program. There's new science standards, so we're now looking at the science standards K-5. There'll be a new science assessment in 2 years. So we're preparing for that, as well as continuing to do the work in STEAM and global competence. So we have lots of partnerships with universities that help us do really deep work, good work. We're looking at research in the field, which comes from Stanford University, and our partnership there is with Challenge Success. Ms. Lapple and Mr. Walsh have done a lot of work around that question about balancing the social emotional wellness with having a rigorous environment, and those two things not being mutually exclusive, as well as other partnerships with the University of Michigan, NYU, and Harvard. And the 2 international organizations, Asia Society and World Savvy, have been partnering with us to develop our Global Scholars Program. And that gives you a little bit of a flavor of the work that we're doing K-12 from a 30,000 feet perspective, not a lot of detail. But if you want to talk more, I'm always available. Come to the next Principal's Coffee. I can be there too, if you need to hear it again. Thank you.
Okay, so now for the fun. That was fun, but now this is going to be real fun. So we wanted to spend a few moments speaking to you about 2 of our big initiatives this year that we believe will continue to foster community and to strengthen our ties as an educational community. Mr. Ancona and I, and before I go on any further, I do have to say something. You know, Dr. Lamia was so kind talking about myself and the work that I've done. Well, I have a partner in crime that has made my work, there's just no one better to work with. Mr. Ancona, who is our assistant principal, he and I really do everything together. I have a great partner to think with and to troubleshoot with and to problem solve and to celebrate. So although I really appreciated all that Dr. Lamia said, it goes to both of us because
We've even started dressing alike.
I know. This was not planned with the colors. I've never wore this color combo before. I couldn't believe it. So Mr. Ancona and I would like to speak about our two focuses. The first is student voice circles. So when we first started to begin our leadership here at HC Crittenden, one of the areas that I think we both believe so strongly in is developing community. And there was a great community that existed here. We wanted to find opportunities and ways to grow that community. So we were listening a lot about student empowerment, student engagement, because the faculty was all in and the students were all in, but how do we get this to work even further? And we learned about something called student voice circles, where students would have the opportunity to learn how to, it's always listen to one another, learn from one another, and lead with one another. And that's not just student to student, it's our entire community, so that our faculty could develop relationships with our students in terms of they're not their best friends, but they're more comfortable to speak with one another and to have conversations and provide feedback, both teacher to student, student to teacher. So this was last year the launch of Student Voice Circles. We brought in specialists who would help us to train and work together. And last year we focused a lot in our voice circles. There were 3 assemblies last year, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. We received feedback that 6th grade might have been too young. So this year we did both, just 7th and 8th grade. Last year we focused on supporting and building a community, and we did a lot of work in the initial voice circles together as large whole groups in terms of how are we unique and how are our experiences similar. And through those commonalities, we moved forward to develop voice circles. And then we also had students become trained, and they were our voice circle ambassadors. And then throughout the year, we would run voice circles when the faculty wanted to learn, or teams wanted to learn more information about something that they were doing, whether it was their wellness goal or some other practice they were doing. We ran voice circles with parents to learn about what insight we could take from you in terms of what we were doing right and ways we could improve HCC.
We also ran voice circles with just our students on checking on how our programs were doing and what they were doing for them. So we got a lot of insight from, you know, our first line of defense, basically, of whether our programs are working or not. So along the way, we've made changes and incorporated some of their input into decisions that we're making moving forward. Like Kim was saying, this year's voice circles centered around building trust and learning how to listen and be respectful and have good dialogue, which will feed into Project Me, which is something that Kim and I and the community here is going to launch this year.
So we have some voice circle ambassadors here. Come on up, everybody. But before, and these are pictures actually, oh, I can't go back, but those were pictures that you saw that were from this year. We did our voice circles in the library. It was a little bit more of a smaller, intimate setting. And before I ask you guys to speak, what you're seeing is what our students received this year. And this was, our focus this year was how to build trust with each other through dignity. So our students worked with Trent Hall. He is one of our, the gentleman that came in and helped train all of our faculty and all of our students. He led these workshops, and it was how to build trust and how to honor one's dignity. And so it was about a 2.5, 3 hour, would you say, experience where the students were taken through different phases of getting to know one another. They were in teams, so they were with similar teammates, 7A or 7B, 8A, 8B. And they talked about what it looked like if your dignity was honored or violated. And then there were different ways that they explored this idea of honoring one's dignity. The back side of it spoke about reflective listening, because we really also know the importance of listening and engaging and learning with one another and developing connections with your teammates and community members. So they also practice doing some of that. So that's just our focus this year for the voice circles that just happened last week. So if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
I'm Joseph Berman. Yeah.
Great, what grade?
7th grade.
I'm John Cavada. I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Ashley Stengel. I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Matthew Samet. I'm in 7th grade.
We also have 8th grade ambassadors trained as well, but these guys volunteered and we're so happy that they joined us. So we want to make sure that we have a foundation so that everyone understands what voice circles are.
So the power of student voice circles, that's the title. So like number one is to build trust, because we do a lot of stuff with the people around us. Like I know like almost all of like these people right here. I know all of them. And then we also want connecting people in ways that we have not done before, so like getting to know them in like deeper ways. And then honest communication. We want to be honest with our peers, and yeah.
For number 4, it's getting to know someone. So like if like Joe said, like if you connect with them, like you can build a bond. And for 5, it's establishing a foundation through trust so we can work together as a community. So it's like when you connect with someone, you can trust someone, like you can work together better and productively.
I think also the idea was that when you see someone in the hall, there would be a more understanding between students, between someone that you might not have ever, you hadn't had a conversation with them in the past, and then you go through a voice circle. There's just a moment where when you see them in the hall, the hello becomes different. So this year's focus.
So this year we're focusing on building trust and building a community. Basically, like Joe and Matthew said, getting deeper and understanding the people we work with in our school. And we're also trying to understand our own behaviors and actions, like why we do things, what causes us to do something, and how it affects other people.
Honoring one other's dignity is really important, because like you never want to like disrespect someone, and you always want to really honor them and like be respectful of everyone. Reflective listening, like if someone else is speaking that's not you, you should really listen to them, because they might have something that you really want to learn or know, and it could really help you like throughout your life. And yeah.
And there were sentence starters here. So the students, when they sat together in their voice circles and they were doing activities, they could use one of these starters to help them engage more, start to practice and become more comfortable in doing so. I think another piece that our students, I hope, took away is that when you're having a conversation, try not to think about the next thing you want to say during when someone else is speaking. Actually listen to them and take it in, and then after you've taken in what they've said, you've really listened, then you can reply to them. Okay, so pause for a second, you guys don't move. There's another, so voice circles is one of the large aspects that we're trying to support this year as a building. The other exciting initiative that we're taking, that we developed, was something called Project Me. Now, Dr. Lamia spoke about how Dana Ferraro, she and the 7th grade, they have something called the Genius Hour, which is really how we launched Project Me. Genius Hour was allowing kids to pursue their passions, and it was a framework of problem-based learning and pursuing something that truly interests them. This summer, Mr. Ancona and I put together with some of the faculty this idea of Project Me. It will be a year-long experience for our students that will foster community and really focuses on students' personal growth and self-reflection. And it's growth over grades. And I said this at back to school night, grades are very important. We understand that they serve many, many different ways to allow our students to grow. But in this pivotal time in their lives, I think also we want to make sure we send the message to our children that your growth is key. We need to make sure that you're growing, that you're setting goals, that you're reflecting on them, and you're engaging and dictating what you want to do and how you're going to do it. Our focus this year for Project Me, there will be an overall focus for the school, and it will be on active learning. That's one of our 4 components of our central question. And we're going to ask our students to take ownership in their education and make the most of learning opportunities. Anything to add?
No.
Okay. And we're coming back to these guys in one second.
Yeah.
Do you want to walk?
Sure. So Project Me really incorporates a lot of decisions that we've made with the faculty, with our students over the years. At our first year here, at the end of the year, Kim and I just noticed that there was something missing within our community. that we tended to recognize a small percentage of our students. So we rolled out in the next year a way that teachers could recognize more and more students. That was last year. And this year, we're gonna put the onus on our students to tell us how they've grown throughout the year, and to set a goal for themselves. So Project Me focuses on them being more present in their own learning and making decisions and thinking about those decisions. They set an individual goal towards becoming a more active learner. They work in squads, which are mixed grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, with one facilitator, a faculty member. That came from students last year through voice circles. They wanted more interaction with other people, other students from opposite sides of the building that they never got.
So our
to
6th
connect
graders
with.
loved when they had an opportunity to work with 8th graders or 7th graders or vice versa. So we heard that in many of our voice circles, so we tried to find a way to incorporate it into our work, and this is where it showed up. So Project Me, they'll be in squads. In mid-October, we're going to let them learn about who they'll be working with and their facilitator, which will be their teacher, but the teacher really is going to be the facilitator. It won't be Sage on the stage, it will be someone who helps these 10 students work towards their active learning goal. And each student might have a different behavior or goal that they are going to focus on and set goals for. So how are they going to keep track of this work? So all year, they have this goal that's at the forefront. They're going to do a digital portfolio. And this is some of the work that came out of our teachers visiting HTH High Tech High. At High Tech High, which is a high school in California, students, they track, they document, they notice their progress, and they capture it all in a digital portfolio. So our students are going to do that. They'll meet once a month with their squad, and they will be given structure to first think about what active learning goal they'd like to pursue, and then how they want to capture that in all their different classes. So if I say that my active learning goal is going to be persistence, then throughout the year, I'm going to have to try to consider ways that my persistence is being captured. It could be during math class that I continued working through a math problem, and I might take a picture of it and then put it in my digital portfolio, and that would be something that I would then explain at the end of the year. It could be in physical education that I'm being persistent by never giving up on the mile or on the, what's that beeper? The
Pacer.
yeah, the pacer test, right? Maybe I'm going to be persistent. So we're asking them to consider all the different ways that they can show the evidence that they move forward in persistence or whatever their learning goal is. And there might be times that it's really hard for them. And if that's the case, they could capture that and talk and consider and reflect on what they did that maybe they fell short and then how they overcame it the next time. So this is all through a digital portfolio. They will have a passage presentation at the end of the year. They're going to be, again, this won't be, hey, get it done. They will be given structure each month with the facilitator and with their peers, and then they will share at the end. And during this time, there'll be Project Me, where they're working on their own goals, and there will sometimes be Project We, if you turn the M upside down, where they're sharing ideas and supporting one another in this work. So I think that captures our work. Those are the two big pieces, and we now are going to ask you to participate in a student voice circle, and we will be doing something similar with our faculty and then with our students to launch Project Me in October. So, does anyone want to go over the ground rules of, go ahead.
So some of the voice circle guidelines are to take some risks because you probably know most of the people here, and if you don't, you're going to get to learn something about them. So you want to communicate well with them. So it's like taking risks. Stories shared here should stay here. Like if they share something that's very personal to them, don't share it with your best buddy outside of school. Listen to understand. So this means you don't want to break into their conversation. You want to just understand what they're sharing with you. And then keep an open mind. If you think this is going to be very boring, don't think that. Because it's probably not going to be. It's going to be very fun. Try on new perspectives. That means try to see stuff in different ways. Like if you see steak as bad, see steak as good.
So the first thing that we will do is that you have a student leader that's a participant also in the voice circle, and they will model some of the questions in case there's any ambiguity. But this is easy. If you could go around, and what is your name and how are you? Okay, so then the next question, and I would suggest everyone kind of pause and think about it. Tell a story of when you learned something new. And that could be when you were 5. It could be it'd be better if it was more recent, but it's something that really stands out to you. So you're going to tell a story when you're ready of when you learned something new. Next question would be, what did you learn about yourself? So now that you've explained that something that you learned that was new, for that, what did you learn about yourself when you were going through it or in retrospect?
Last question, what behaviors or learning dispositions did you exhibit to become successful?
So our kids are going to do something very similar to this to launch the Project Me. And then the question would be, which one of those dispositions does each student want to, it could be one of these or something different, want to focus on for the year that they think would speak to how they could become a more active learner? And then what we're going to ask them to do, what they'll do with their squad and their facilitator would be then to say, okay, what would it be like to have persistence or open-mindedness or patience or good listening? Which one of those, and what does it look like in some of your classes? And what are the actual steps? Because I don't think that we could just ask any adolescent to say, okay, be a good listener, go to it and get some data to capture that work. We then want to ask them to say, what would that look like in different classes? What would it look like outside of school when you're in a play or you're being active in another way? What does it look like when you're having conversations? And so they're going to be asked to write down steps that they would do for one of those active learning behaviors. And then they would be supported in capturing this work throughout the year. Teachers are going to be instrumental in not only leading a squad, but reminding their students in class, hey, think about your active learning goal, and is this a moment that you can capture something that you're really proud of that would link to some of your work? So by the end, our hope is that our children, each one of them, will be able to reflect on how they were a good listener and how being a better listener allowed them to see a different perspective in social studies during the trial that they do in 8th grade, or in 7th grade they might be able to bring a piece into the Revolutionary War monologue that they hadn't before because they listened to one of their peers say, did you ever think about it this way? So this would be our work that we have for the year. This is our first year doing this. As Mr. Ancona said, when we first came here, our end of the year was a celebratory. It was great, but it really just was a lot about a grade and hard work, which is all important, but it was a few students. And this is celebrating everyone, and they can look at themselves and see their progress and share it with their squads. And I don't want to commit to this, but we're thinking we would also like to maybe have our children and sometimes invite their parents in. And we're trying to keep it simple this year. We don't want to overdo it. We want to just kind of stay the course and see how effective this is. But we thought it really captured some of the important ideals that we have for our students. So they won't, if you ask your son or daughter about this, they won't know a thing about it yet. It's going to be mid-October. We wanted to get the voice circles down pat. We wanted to make sure that we had thought through everything, and then we'll launch it mid-October, and then they'll go each month. It's usually a Thursday, the first Thursday of each month, usually.
Right. Following the day that we wear these t-shirts.
Yep. There will be a Project Me hour delay where they meet with their squad. Nope, it's the whole school. The only reason we didn't do the voice circles with 6th grade, it was a little tumultuous last year. When you think about it, you're new to the school and you're asked to do student voice circles. I think it was a little bit harder than we expected, so we backed it up and only did 7th and 8th grade this year for the student voice circles. But you can be a 6th grader and be participating in a voice circle and not having, for this work, and you didn't need to do it with Trent to start the school year.
But what we did do for 6th grade was we moved their field trip to the beginning of the year so that they have team building opportunities.
In a different way. Yeah, so everyone gets that experience. It just would be slightly different in terms of what it looked like to start the year. To be honest, we think that at least once a month, because the squads will start out in a voice circle each time for the Project Me hour. So they'll start out as a we, then they'll be given some structure, then they'll go to do their individual work during that hour, and then they might end with a little me time again, or we time. We did probably 10 student voice circles last year, and it depended. Sometimes it'd be voluntary during lunch to give us feedback. Last year we had an entire 6th grade team do it to talk about expectations in class. So it varies. It is when a teacher says that they want to better understand something, or when we want to get some student thinking, or we just want to, we think it's time to do something that would bring attention to something we're valuing, and we want to talk to the kids about it.
So it's like.
Okay, well, thanks so much. It's so nice to see everyone here, and have a good week. Okay,
Thank you.